Ray Hollister had learned two things in Vietnam and 40 years as an electrician. Live wires don't announce themselves, and neither do lies. Both just sit there, waiting for you to make the wrong move, and then they light you up from the inside out. December cold had a bite that night, the kind that made diesel engines wheeze and complain. His truck idled outside the high school gym where his step-granddaughter finished basketball practice. Frost climbing the windshield faster than the defroster could push it back. The heater groaned, blowing air that smelled like old coffee and motor oil. Merle Haggard played low on the radio, something about Mama tried. His phone buzzed against the cup holder. Linda's text lit up the screen. Working late. Huge backlog at Town Hall. Don't wait up, XO. Ray checked his watch. 7:43. Town Hall closed at 5. Always had. He drove down Main Street anyway, breath visible in the cab, even with the heat running full. The municipal building sat dark, parking lot empty except for snow piled along the curbs. But Linda's Subaru was parked at Derek Vance Construction, lit windows showing two silhouettes close together behind thin curtains. Ray pulled across the street, engine ticking as it cooled. Through her car window, he could see a manila folder on the passenger seat. Even at this distance, the label was clear. Easement, Hollister property. He'd been the patient man his whole life. Time to see what patients bought. Ray didn't go straight home. He drove the long way, past the Feed and Seed and the Methodist Church, giving himself time to think. The cold made his hands ache where he gripped the wheel. Old brake from '69, never set quite right. Streetlights threw orange pools across snow that squeaked under his tires. Linda's car was in the driveway when he pulled up, exhaust still ticking warm. She'd beaten him home by maybe 10 minutes. The porch light was on, yellow against the dark pines that lined the back 40. Inside, she stood at the stove, stirring something that smelled like canned soup and black pepper. She'd changed clothes, the wool skirt she wore to the office replaced by yoga pants and one of his old flannels. Her hair was damp at the temples. "Hey, hun," she smiled without turning around. "How was Katie's practice?" "Fine. Coach says she's getting better at free throws." Ray hung his coat on the hook by the door, stamped snow off his boots. "You get caught up at work?" "Finally, yeah. February budget reviews are killing me." She ladled soup into bowls, set them on the table. "I'm exhausted." Ray sat down, watched her move around the kitchen. She'd been his wife for 8 years. Second marriage for both of them. He'd thought he knew her face, the way she tucked hair behind her left ear when she was lying, how her voice went half an octave higher when she was nervous. She wasn't nervous now. "Town Hall looked pretty dark when I drove past," he said. Her hand paused on the refrigerator handle, just for a second. "Oh, I was in the basement. Records room. No windows down there." She pulled out a beer, twisted the cap. "Want one?" "I'm good." They ate in silence. The clock above the sink ticked loud enough to count. Outside, wind rattled the storm windows. Single pane, original to the house from 1947. Ray kept meaning to replace them. Never seemed urgent until nights like this, when cold found every gap. Linda's phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it, didn't reach for it. "Derek Vance called earlier," she said, too casual. "Something about the planning commission meeting next week." "That's so. He's proposing some development out past Miller's Creek. Wants to make sure the paperwork's all filed correctly." She scraped her bowl, not looking at him. "You know how he is. Very thorough." Ray nodded, set his spoon down. "I'm going to check the workshop. Think I left the space heater on. It's freezing out there. Won't be long." The cold hit him like a fist when he stepped outside. 17 below, according to the thermometer mounted by the door. His breath came out in clouds. Gravel crunched under his boots, frozen solid. The workshop sat 50 yards from the house. Corrugated metal sides and a wood stove he'd installed himself. He didn't turn on the lights. Just stood there in the dark, letting his eyes adjust, listening to the wind work at the corners. Through the workshop window, he could see the house. Linda's silhouette moved past the kitchen window, phone pressed to her ear now. She was smiling. Ray's first wife, Sarah, had died of cancer in 2005. 42 years they'd been married. The last 6 months, she couldn't get out of bed. Ray had learned to change sheets with her still in them, how to crush pills into applesauce, how to pretend he couldn't hear her crying at 3 in the morning. He'd learned not to make waves, to keep the peace, to let things slide because what did it matter, really, when death was sitting in the corner waiting for its turn? After she died, he'd sworn he'd never be that alone again. Now he wondered if loneliness might have been safer. Back inside, Linda was loading the dishwasher. Her purse sat on the counter, leather smell mixing with dish soap. Ray had never gone through her things before. Seemed like something weak men did, men who couldn't trust their wives. He filled a glass of water at the sink, watching her reflection in the window. She was humming something, happy. "I'm going to turn in early," he said. "Long day tomorrow. Promised Eddie I'd rewire his compressor." "Okay, I'll be up in a bit." Ray climbed the stairs to their bedroom, changed into thermal underwear and an old Carhartt shirt. Through the floor, he could hear Linda's voice, low and soft. Phone call. He couldn't make out words, just the rhythm of it, the way she laughed. He waited until she went into the bathroom, heard the shower start, water hammer in the old pipes. Then he went back downstairs in his socks, quiet on the hardwood. Her purse was open. He didn't dig. Just looked at what was visible on top. A lipstick, burgundy red. Linda wore pink. Always pink, said red made her look washed out. And beneath it, the edge of that manila folder. He pulled it out slow, careful not to disturb anything else. Easement application. Hollister property, the label read. 40 acres, survey number 4472B. The form was partially filled out. Property description, survey numbers, purpose of easement, road access for commercial development. The signature line, where the property owner was supposed to sign, was blank. But the notary stamp at the bottom was already filled in. Linda's official seal from the town clerk's office, dated 2 weeks ago, water shut off upstairs. Ray slid the folder back, closed the purse, moved to the living room. He was sitting in his recliner, TV playing some late-night western, when Linda came down in her robe, hair wrapped in a towel. "You okay?" she asked. "You look pale." "Just tired." She kissed the top of his head, smelling like lavender shampoo and something else, something expensive he didn't recognize. "Get some sleep, hon." After she went back upstairs, Ray sat in the dark, gun smoke and fiddle music playing low from the TV. Outside, the thermometer had dropped to 20 below, cold enough that the house timbers groaned, settling deeper into frozen ground. The signature line was blank, but the property description was his 40 acres, down to the survey number Sarah's father had recorded in 1953. Sunday morning came with the kind of cold that made car doors stick. Ray scraped ice off the windshield while Linda waited in the truck, breath fogging the passenger window. She wore her good wool coat, the navy one with brass buttons, and had spent 20 minutes on her makeup. "We don't have to go," Ray said, climbing in. "Roads are bad. We haven't missed a Sunday in 3 years." She adjusted the visor mirror, checked her lipstick. Pink, he noticed, not burgundy. Besides, Pastor Whitmore's expecting us for fellowship after. The Methodist Church sat on Main Street, white clapboard in a bell tower that dated back to 1889. Trucks and sedans packed the lot, exhaust rising in the cold. Inside smelled like coffee and old hymnals, pine from the Christmas wreaths someone hadn't taken down yet. Linda worked the room like she was running for office, hugging the quilting circle ladies, laughing with the young families, shaking hands with the town council members who clustered near the coffee urn. Ray stood beside her, nodding when spoken to, watching how she touched people's arms, leaned in close when they talked. "Linda works so hard for this town," Mary Henderson said, loud enough for the group to hear. "Up late every night. Isn't that right, Ray?" "That's what she tells me," Ray said. Something in his tone made Mary's smile falter. Linda's hand found his elbow, squeezed just hard enough to warn. Pastor Whitmore called them to worship. They filed into the third pew. Same place they'd sat for 8 years. The heat was up too high, making the air thick and close. Ray's collar itched. He couldn't stop seeing that manila folder, the notary stamp already filled in, the blank signature line waiting. After the service, fellowship hour brought out casseroles and sheet cake. Linda stood with the quilting circle, coffee cup in hand, telling some story that had them all laughing. Ray caught fragments, something about filing cabinets and Murphy's Law. "Your wife's a treasure," Pastor Whitmore said, appearing at Ray's shoulder. He smelled like aftershave and peppermint. "Town's lucky to have her." "She mentioned working Thursday night?" Ray kept his voice level. "Late at the office?" "Can't say she did." The pastor's eyes narrowed slightly. "Why?" "Just wondering how late town business runs these days." Linda appeared then, slipping her arm through Ray's. "Hun, we should head out. I promised I'd prep the budget materials this afternoon." In the truck, neither of them spoke. Ray drove past the hardware store, past Nora's diner where the Sunday crowd was thick at the windows. Linda stared at her phone, thumbs moving. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Fine." She didn't look up. "Why?" "You seem nervous in there." "I'm not nervous." Her voice had that higher pitch now, the one that meant she was lying. "You're the one being weird, acting strange with Pastor Whitmore." Ray pulled into their driveway, but Linda didn't get out. Just sat there, phone dark in her lap, staring at the dashboard. "If something's wrong," she said quietly, "you can tell me." The audacity of it took his breath. "Can I, Ray, what's going on?" He could have said it then. Could have asked about Derek Vance, about Thursday night, about burgundy lipstick and the folder in her purse. Instead, he got out, boots crunching on frozen gravel, and headed for the workshop. Linda didn't follow. Inside, Ray fired up the wood stove, fed it kindling until flames caught. The workshop was his space. Pegboard walls organized by socket size, electrical spools mounted in order, coffee can full of screws sorted by thread count. Sarah had called it his church. Said a man needed somewhere to think. He pulled the space heater close and spread out the paperwork he'd photographed Friday night on his phone, printed at the library when Linda thought he was getting groceries. The easement application, the notary seal, the property description that matched his deed exactly, and there, at the bottom, his signature. Ray pulled his wallet from his back pocket, extracted his driver's license, compared the signatures. The one on the easement form was close, real close. Someone had practiced, but the capital H in Hollister had a loop his didn't. And the final R slanted wrong. It was a forgery. He sat back, the space heater ticking as it warmed. Outside, wind rattled the metal siding. His hands were shaking. This wasn't just an affair. Wasn't just Linda lying about working late. Wasn't just Derek Vance buying her drinks and making her feel young again. This was theft, criminal fraud. She'd notarized a forged document using her position as town clerk to make it official. They were trying to steal his land. The door opened. Linda stood there in her good coat, arms wrapped around herself against the cold. Can we talk? About what? About whatever's making you act like this. But she stepped inside, closed the door. Ray, you've been different all week. Distant. If I did something, you file any easements lately? He asked. In your official capacity? Her face went very still. What? Ray held up the printed application. This look familiar? She stared at the paper. Her mouth opened, closed. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, harder. You went through my things. That's what you're worried about? Privacy? That's confidential town business. That's my property, my signature. Except I didn't sign it. Linda's hand went to her throat. The gesture looked practiced. Ray, this is a misunderstanding. Let me explain. The hearing's February 28th, he said. 6 weeks from now? Were you planning to tell me before or after you and Derek Vance stole 40 acres out from under me? The name landed like a slap. Linda took a step back. It's not like that, she whispered. Then what's it like? But she was already gone, door slamming hard enough to rattle tools on their hooks. Ray sat alone in the workshop, holding a forged document with his dead wife's property description on it, while the space heater ticked and wind found every gap in the siding. February 28th, 6 weeks. Monday morning, Ray drove to Nora's diner before the breakfast rush hit. The parking lot was empty except for Cal Turner's old Ford, primer gray and oxidized chrome. Ray could smell bacon grease through the door before he opened it. Cal sat in the back booth, same place he'd sat every morning for 30 years. Retired sheriff, 70 years old, with hands like tree roots and a face that looked carved from the same granite as the crazies. He was working on a piece of pine with his pocket knife, long curls of wood piling on the table. Little early for you, Cal said without looking up. Ray slid into the booth. The vinyl was cracked, patched with duct tape. Need to talk. Figured. Cal set down the knife. Linda's been crying at church. Pastor Whitmore mentioned you two might be having trouble. Nora appeared with coffee, poured without asking. She smelled like fryer oil and cigarettes from the grandfathered smoking section. You eating? Just coffee, Ray said. She left the pot and walked away. Ray pulled out the folded easement application, smoothed it on the table between them. Found this in Linda's purse Friday. Cal put on his reading glasses, studied the document. His face didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. That your signature? Close. Not quite. And the notary seal? Linda's, from Town Hall. Cal was quiet for a long time, just looking at the paper. Outside, a snowplow rumbled past, blades scraping asphalt. Derek Vance is the developer? Yeah. Cal folded the document carefully, handed it back. Ray, I'm going to tell you something, but you can't repeat it, and you can't act on it alone. Ray waited. Derek Vance bought 3 properties up in Whitefish, 2019 through 21. Every one of them involved a woman with land. 2 widows, 1 second wife. Cal picked up his coffee, the cup small in his big hands. All 3 deals went through right after the women signed easement agreements. Then came foreclosures, tax issues, 1 eminent domain claim that turned out to be fabricated. Jesus. Got chased out of Idaho before that. Similar pattern in Wyoming. Man's got a system. Cal's knife hand was still, the whittling forgotten. Finds women with property access, clerks, assessors, planning commission members, romances them, uses their position to manipulate paperwork. Ray's coffee had gone cold. How do you know this? Still got friends in law enforcement. Made some calls after I saw Linda and Derek together at the Stockman last month. Cal leaned forward. He's smooth, Ray, real smooth. And he's got lawyers. 2 of those Whitefish women tried to fight back. Lost everything anyway? Linda's not a victim here. She forged my signature. I know. Cal's voice was gentle. But she's probably not the mastermind either. Derek's done this before. He knows how to make women think it was their idea. The door opened, letting in cold air and 3 ranch hands in Carhartt coveralls. They nodded at Cal, took the counter stools. Nora's radio played low, some old Hank Williams song about cheating hearts. What do I do? Ray asked. Cal pushed his coffee aside, picked up his knife again, started whittling, not looking at Ray. You're going to need documentation, official records. Derek Vance LLC's business history, property transactions, any lawsuits or complaints. He paused, tested the wood's edge with his thumb. And you're going to need to move careful. Linda's got friends in this town. Derek's got money. You start making accusations, they'll paint you as the crazy old man. Maybe I am crazy. You're not. Cal looked up then, met Ray's eyes. I've known you since you came back from Vietnam. Watched you build a life with Sarah. Watched you bury her. Watched you try again with Linda. You're not crazy. You're just married to someone who made a real bad choice. Ray felt something loosen in his chest. First person who'd believed him. County Assessor's Office keeps records on all LLC formations, Cal said. Property disputes, liens, bankruptcies. Public record, anyone can access it. He carved another curl of pine, let it fall to the table. I got nothing better to do today. You? Eddie's expecting me at the hardware store. Compressor job. That can wait. They finished their coffee in silence. Outside, the sun was coming up, turning the snow pink along Main Street. Ray could see the town hall from here. Linda's Subaru already in the parking lot. Early for a Monday. Cal left money on the table, folded his knife, pocketed the wood shavings. My truck or yours? Yours is warmer. Fair point. The county seat was 40 minutes south, down roads that hadn't been plowed since Saturday. Cal drove steady, both hands on the wheel, not talking. The heater rattled but threw real warmth. Ray watched Montana roll past. Barbed wire and snow fence, cattle clustered near windbreaks, the Absarokas white against blue sky. The assessor's office was in the basement of the county courthouse, fluorescent lights humming, the smell of old paper and copy machine toner thick in the air. A woman in her 50s sat behind a desk, reading glasses on a beaded chain. Help you, gentlemen? Need to look up some property records, Cal said. LLC formations, transaction history. Public record or certified copies? Just looking. She pointed to a computer terminal in the corner. Sign in. Let me know if you need help with the search functions. It took Ray 20 minutes to figure out the database. Cal stood behind him, reading over his shoulder. Derek Vance LLC, formed in Montana 6 months ago. Principal address, Grafton. Previous business entities, Vance Development Group, Idaho, dissolved 2020. Mountain West Properties, Wyoming, bankruptcy 2021. Summit Holdings, Montana, no longer active. 4 property disputes across 3 states. 2 settled out of court, 1 foreclosure, 1 pending. The dates lined up. The pattern was there, clear as wire in a circuit diagram. Ray printed everything. The machine clicked in Word, spitting out pages that smelled like hot toner. The clerk appeared at his elbow. Finding what you need? Yeah, Ray said. Thanks. She glanced at the screen, at Derek's name in the search field. Her expression changed. She leaned in close, voice low. Off the record? That man's a predator with a briefcase. Ray spent Wednesday morning at Eddie's Hardware, rewiring the compressor in the back room. The space smelled like sawdust and WD-40, metal shelving packed with bins of screws and bolts sorted by size. Eddie brought him coffee around 10, the good stuff from his personal pot, not the customer sludge up front. Heard you and Linda are having trouble, Eddie said. Ray didn't look up from the junction box. Where'd you hear that? Small town. Eddie leaned against the workbench. Mary Henderson mentioned it at Rotary, said Linda seemed upset at church. Ray stripped a wire, tested the connection. Mary Henderson talks too much. That she does. Eddie was quiet for a moment. You need anything, you let me know. Appreciate it. The bell over the front door chimed. Eddie went to help the customer. Ray heard voices, then Eddie's tone changed. Got careful. Morning, Derek. What can I do for you? Ray's hands stilled on the wire cutters. Just browsing. Derek Vance's voice carried easy, confident. Might need some materials for the Miller Creek project, if it gets approved. That's the one needs the easement? Right across Hollister's back 40. Beautiful piece of land. Wasted on one old man, you ask me. Ray set down his tools, stepped into the main store. Derek stood by the paint section, wearing an expensive fleece vest and jeans that probably cost more than Ray's truck payment. He was younger than Ray had pictured, early 40s, gym built, with the kind of tan that came from a salon bed in January. Help you with something? Ray said. Derek turned, smile already in place, extended his hand. Ray Hollister. Good to finally meet you face to face. Derek Vance. Ray looked at the hand, didn't take it. Right. Derek lowered his arm. Heard you've been asking questions about my business. County records, that kind of thing. Public information. Sure is. Derek picked up a paint stirrer, examined it like it was interesting. Thing is, Ray, progress happens whether we want it or not. Grafton's growing, needs infrastructure, development, jobs. That land of yours, it's standing in the way. Eddie appeared from the back, carrying a socket set, stopped when he saw them together. My land's not for sale, Ray said. Didn't say it was, said it's in the way. Derek set down the stirrer. You know what eminent domain is, Ray? Government can take property for public use. Road access counts as public use. That's not how eminent domain works. Maybe not, but legal battles are expensive, time-consuming. Man your age, you really want to spend your last good years fighting lawyers? Derek's smile never wavered. Or you could take a generous offer, retire comfortable, let someone else worry about the future. 2 more customers had come in, a rancher Ray knew from VFW and his son. They stood by the register, pretending to look at drill bits, listening to every word. Future's already paid for, Ray said, in blood and mortgage payments. That right? Derek took a step closer, not threatening exactly, just crowding the space. He smelled like expensive cologne and protein powder. Talked to Linda lately about your options? The air went thin. Eddie set down the socket set with a clunk. You stay away from my wife, Ray said. Derek laughed. Your wife came to me, old man. Knows a good investment when she sees one. He clapped Ray's shoulder, gripped just hard enough to feel like a threat. Think about your options. Clock's ticking. February 28th isn't far off. He walked out, bell chiming cheerful behind him. The rancher and his son were staring. Eddie looked at the floor. Ray went back to the compressor, but his hands were shaking too bad to hold the wire strippers steady. That evening, Ray tried Pastor Whitmore, called his personal cell, asked to meet privately. The pastor suggested. Thursday morning, his office at the church, Ray showed up at 9. The pastor's office smelled like coffee and old books, a space heater ticking in the corner. Whitmore sat behind a desk covered in papers, reading glasses perched on his nose. Thanks for seeing me, Ray said. Of course. Whitmore gestured to a chair. Ray, I have to tell you, I'm concerned. Linda came to see me Tuesday, said you've been acting paranoid, aggressive. She say why? She said, you've been going through her things, making accusations about her work, suggesting she's, he paused, chose his words careful, having an affair. Ray pulled out the easement document, set it on the desk. This is a forged signature, my property, her notary seal. Whitmore studied it, frowning. Ray, I'm not a lawyer. This looks like standard municipal paperwork to me. That's not my signature. As Linda says you've become fixated on this, that you're seeing threats where there aren't any. Whitmore took off his glasses, rubbed the bridge of his nose. She's worried about you. Frankly, so am I. You believe her? I believe you're both hurting. Marriage is hard, second marriages especially. The pastor leaned forward. I'd like to recommend counseling. There's a therapist in Bozeman, specializes in, I'm not crazy. No one's saying that, but grief does things to us. Losing Sarah, that was traumatic. Sometimes trauma resurfaces years later, makes us suspicious, afraid. Ray stood up. The chair scraped loud on old linoleum. Where are you going? Somewhere people believe me. But even that was disappearing. At Nora's diner Friday morning, the regular crowd went quiet when Ray walked in. Nora poured his coffee with a tight smile, didn't meet his eyes. The booth, where Cal usually sat, was empty. Mary Henderson stopped by his table on her way out. Ray, honey, if you need someone to talk to, professional help I mean, my daughter's therapist is very good. At the hardware store, Eddie made excuses why he couldn't have Ray finish the compressor job. Said he'd call when he needed him, even at VFW Friday night. The poker game broke up early. Men who'd known him 30 years suddenly remembered other places to be. Ray drove home through February cold, the truck heater blowing weak air that smelled like antifreeze. His headlights caught deer eyes in the ditch, red and unblinking. Linda's car was gone. No note. Just silence and the furnace clicking on, filling the empty house with warm air that couldn't touch the cold settling in his chest. Maybe she was right. Maybe his mind was going. Vietnam did things to men. Age did things. Grief. He sat at the kitchen table, staring at the easement document he'd shown to the pastor, to Eddie, to people who'd decided he was the problem. Maybe he was seeing enemies where there were only shadows. Maybe Derek Vance was just a developer, and Linda was just a town clerk, and he was just a paranoid old man who couldn't let go of land that didn't matter to anyone but him. The house was so quiet he could hear his own heartbeat. Saturday morning, Ray woke to the sound of wind driving sleet against the windows. Late February storm, the kind that turned roads to ice and knocked out power lines. He made coffee in his dark kitchen, watching gray light creep across frozen fields. Linda's side of the bed hadn't been slept in. 3 days now since she'd been home except to grab clothes and mail. Staying with friends, she'd said in a text, giving him space to work through things. Ray sat at the kitchen table with his coffee, the house settling around him in creaks and groans. On the counter, his phone buzzed. Mike's name on the screen. He almost didn't answer. Hadn't talked to his son in 6 months. Maybe longer. Mike had made it clear after Ray remarried. Felt like a betrayal of Sarah's memory, like Ray couldn't wait to replace her. They'd gone from weekly calls to birthday texts to nothing. Ray picked up. Yeah. Dad? Mike's voice cautious. Got a minute? Got nothing but. Mike cleared his throat. Heard through the grapevine you and Linda are having problems. Wanted to check in. Who told you? Does it matter? Ray looked out the window at ice coating everything, trees bent under the weight. She's having an affair, forged my signature on property documents, trying to steal the 40 acres with some developer. Silence on the line. Then, Jesus, Dad. But everyone thinks I'm losing my mind, so maybe I am. You're not. Mike said it fast, certain. Dad, I work in the county assessor's office. Different county, but same systems. If someone's manipulating documents, there's a trail. Something in Ray's chest loosened. First time in days, someone had believed him without qualification. I can't fix this over the phone, Mike said. But I'm coming up next week, Thursday, maybe Friday. We'll figure it out. After they hung up, Ray sat holding the phone, staring at the screensaver. Photo of Sarah from their 40th anniversary. She'd been sick already, thin and tired, but smiling. The sleet turned to snow. Ray watched it pile on the deck railing, thinking about evidence and proof and how to make people see truth when they'd already decided you were the problem. He needed documentation. Video, not just papers people could dismiss. The workshop was cold enough to see his breath. Ray fired up the wood stove, fed it kindling and split pine until flames caught. Then he pulled down a box from the top shelf. Security camera system he'd bought 2 years ago, never installed. Linda had called it paranoid. Said their neighborhood was safe. The camera was small, weatherproof, connected to an app on his phone. Ray mounted it under the workshop eave, angled toward the driveway and access road. From there, it could see vehicles coming and going, catch license plates, record timestamps. His electrician's fingers worked steady, stripping wire, testing connections. This was something he understood. Circuits and current and systems that followed rules. Not like people who lied and changed and made you doubt your own eyes. He finished as afternoon light faded. The camera's red indicator blinked in the dusk. Recording. Inside, he made a sandwich he didn't eat. Watched the news without seeing it. His phone showed the camera feed. Empty driveway, snow falling diagonal in the wind. Timestamp running in the corner. Around 7, his scanner radio crackled to life. Dispatch calling for emergency crews. Power outage at municipal building. Main breaker tripped. Backup generator not starting. Town council meeting scheduled for 7:30. Need electrician on call. Ray grabbed his coat. The town hall parking lot was full. Trucks and sedans buried under snow. Inside, people milled in the hallway. Flashlights cutting through dark. The backup generator should have kicked on automatic, but Ray could hear it choking, failing to turn over. Linda stood near her office door, phone flashlight illuminating her face. She looked tired. When she saw Ray, something flickered in her expression. Relief, maybe, or calculation. Ray. She moved toward him. Thank God, we need help. Generator won't start, and the meeting's supposed to begin in 20 minutes. I'll take a look. Thank you. She touched his arm, brief. I know we're not good right now, but I appreciate this. The generator was in the basement, old but maintained. Ray found the problem in 5 minutes. Flooded engine, probably from the cold. He cleared it, reset the system, listened to it rumble to life. Lights flickered on throughout the building. Back upstairs, the council meeting was starting. Ray stood in the hallway, brushing snow off his coat. Through the open door, he could see Derek Vance at the front table, spreading plans across the surface. Miller Creek Development, Phase 1 approval. Linda saw Ray watching. You don't have to stay. Building's warm, storm's bad, might as well wait it out. She looked like she wanted to argue. Couldn't, not with the council members filing in, not with half the town watching. The records room might need the breaker reset too, if you want to check. An offering. Access. I'll take a look, Ray said. The records room was in the basement. File cabinets lining concrete walls. That smell of old paper and toner thick in the cold air. Ray checked the breaker. Fine. Didn't need resetting. But while he was there, standing among files that held 70 years of Grafton's paperwork. He looked at the cabinet marked PR, property, easements, recent filings. He pulled out his phone, checked the time. Meeting would run an hour, maybe more. Linda was upstairs, taking minutes. He could hear footsteps above, voices muffled through old construction. Ray opened the filing cabinet, camera phone ready. His hands didn't shake. That was the strange part. He thought they would. But this was just another system to test, another circuit to trace. Find where the current stopped flowing true, document it, fix it. He started photographing documents. The Friday before the storm, Ray had driven to VFW for poker night. Weekly game, going on 15 years. Same 6 guys, same table in the back corner. Same smell of stale beer and cigarette smoke grandfathered in from before the ban. He walked in at 7:30. The usual crowd sat at the bar. Ranch hands, retired military, Eddie from the hardware store. Conversation stopped when Ray entered, like someone had hit a mute button. Eddie nodded, didn't smile. Ray, boys. Ray headed for the back table where Cal usually set up the chips and cards. The table was empty. Cal's not coming tonight, Eddie said from the bar. Called earlier, said he's under the weather. Ray stood there, coat still on, feeling the weight of eyes on his back. Game still on? Actually, Eddie glanced at the others. We're thinking of canceling. Storm's coming in. When it was clear and cold outside. No storm yet. Right. Ray turned to leave. Ray, wait. Eddie came around to the bar. Smelled like gun oil and nervousness. Look, man. Derek Vance was in here Wednesday. Bought drinks for the house. Told some stories. He stopped, choosing words careful. He's worried about you. That's so. Says you've been harassing him. Following Linda around. Making threats. Eddie's voice dropped lower. Says Linda's scared. That you've been acting unstable. The other men at the bar looked away. Ray knew most of them. Had served with 2 in Vietnam, fixed Tom Pruitt's well pump for free when he'd lost his job, helped Danny Reeves wire his new barn. And you believe him, Ray said. I don't know what to believe. But Derek's got documentation. Says you've been stalking his properties, taking photos, calling him at weird hours. I've never called Derek Vance in my life. And Linda filed a report with Sheriff Mendez, just in case. Eddie's hand went to Ray's shoulder. Brother, if you need help, real help, we're here for you, but you gotta get your head right. Ray looked around the room. Every face said the same thing. They'd already decided. He left without another word. Now, in the town hall records room, Ray photographed everything. His phone's camera shutter clicked quiet in the concrete basement, flashlighting filing cabinet interiors, easement applications, 3 others besides his, all from the past year. 2 approved, 1 pending. All notarized by Linda, all involving properties Derek needed for the Miller Creek development. But then Ray found Linda's personal file, not official town records. Her own folder, tucked in the back of the bottom drawer. Inside, printed emails. The first was dated 8 months ago, July, before the easement application, before Ray had even noticed anything wrong, from Linda Hollister at graftonmt.gov to Derek. Vance at Advanced Construction. Come subject, opportunity Derek. Following up on our conversation at the Planning Commission meeting, I've been reviewing property records for the Miller Creek corridor. My husband owns 40 acres that would be essential for road access. He inherited it from his first wife's family. Property is paid off, current value around $340K. He's emotionally attached, dead wife's land, etc., but there are ways to structure this. I have notary authority and access to all municipal filings. If you're interested in discussing percentage splits, let me know. El Ray's hands went numb. He read it again, then a third time. My husband owns 40 acres. There are ways to structure this. Percentage splits. She hadn't been seduced. She'd been the architect. He scrolled through more emails. Linda outlining the scheme. Linda suggesting the forged signature. Linda proposing they start an affair to make it look like Ray was jealous, unstable, to discredit him if he fought back. From Derek Vance to Vance Construction, com. To Linda, a Hollister at Grafton MT. Govri, your husband L, smart thinking on the affair angle. If he objects to the easement, we paint him as the bitter ex. I've done this before. It works. Just need to be visible enough that people notice. Not so obvious he has proof. Split on the back end, 60-40, your favor, since you're taking the bigger risk. D-Ray photographed every page. His phone's storage filled. He deleted old photos, kept shooting. More emails. Linda researching property law. Linda practicing Ray's signature on scrap paper. One email included a scanned photo of her attempts, getting better with each line. Linda scheduling their affair around Ray's known routines. The last email was dated 2 weeks ago, from Linda Hollister at graftonmt.gov to Derek, Vance at dvanceconstruction.com. Subject, he knows Derek. Ray found the easement application. He's asking questions, showed the document to Pastor Whitmore and some others. I'm playing it as paranoia, aging, grief. Pastor believes me so far, but we need to accelerate the timeline. Can you push the council to move the hearing up and maybe increase visibility, confront him somewhere, public, make him look aggressive? The more unstable he seems, the easier this gets. After the easement approves, I'll file for divorce citing mental cruelty. Keep the house. He keeps the worthless post-easement land. Everyone's sympathetic to me. Clean exit. L footsteps on the stairs. Ray shoved the folder back, closed the cabinet, pocketed his phone. Linda appeared at the doorway, backlit by the hall fluorescence. Find the problem? Breaker's fine, Ray said. His voice sounded normal, steady. Just old wiring. Checked it all. Good. She looked at him, studying his face. Meeting's breaking up. Storm's getting worse. You should probably head home. Probably should. He walked past her, close enough to smell that expensive perfume. She didn't know. Didn't know he'd found the emails, the proof, the careful documentation of her betrayal written in her own words. In the parking lot, snow came down heavy and wet, already 6 inches deep. Ray sat in his truck, heater struggling, looking at his phone. 200 photos, every email, every piece of evidence that Linda Hollister wasn't the victim of Derek Vance's manipulation. She was the predator. And she'd been planning this since before their last anniversary, when they'd gone to that restaurant in Bozeman, and she'd held his hand across the table and said she was lucky to have found him, lucky to have a second chance at love. Ray's breath fogged the windshield. He started the engine, put it in gear. Some things you needed to see to believe, and now he'd seen it. Ray didn't go straight at home. He drove to Cal's place, a single-wide trailer on 10 acres north of town. The porch light was on, Cal's truck in the drive. Smoke rose from the chimney, pine smell mixing with cold air. Cal answered the door in flannel and wool socks, reading glasses on. Thought you might show up. Inside smelled like coffee and wood smoke. Cal's whittling project sat on the kitchen table, half-finished eagle, wings taking shape from pine. He poured 2 mugs without asking, gestured to the couch. Found something, Ray said. He pulled out his phone, showed Cal the photos. Email after email, Linda's words glowing in the dim light. Cal read in silence. His face didn't change much, but his jaw tightened. When he finished, he set the phone down careful, like it might break. That's evidence, Cal said. Criminal fraud, forgery, conspiracy, everything you need. I know. So why are you here instead of calling Sheriff Mendez? Ray stared at his coffee. Steam rose in the lamplight. Because if I do this, really do this, Linda's life is over. Town clerk job, gone. Reputation, destroyed. Maybe jail time. She earned that. She's still a person. Ray's voice came out rougher than intended. 8 years we were married. I stood next to her in that church. Promised to love her, protect her. She broke those promises first. Doesn't mean I have to. Ray set down his mug. Outside, wind rattled the trailer's siding. What if this is just revenge? What if I'm doing this because I'm angry, hurt, because I want to see her suffer the way I have? Cal picked up the half-carved eagle, turned it in his hands. The knife started moving. Small, precise cuts. That the question you came to ask me? I guess it is. Wrong question. Cal didn't look up from the carving. Question is, what would happen if you did nothing? Ray was quiet. Derek gets his easement. Your land loses value. Maybe you lose it entirely. He moves on to the next town, finds the next woman with property access, does this again. Cal tested the wood's edge with his thumb, and Linda learns she can steal from people who trust her with no consequences. So it's about stopping them. It's about truth. Cal set down the knife, met Ray's eyes. Ray, I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to think before you answer. What would Sarah say to do, Sarah? Ray closed his eyes, saw her in that hospital bed, thin and gray but still sharp. 3 days before she died, she'd gripped his hand with what strength she had left. Don't let people walk on you, she'd said. I know you hate conflict, but some things are worth fighting for. Stand up when it matters. She'd say fight, Ray said. She'd say the land was her family's, 3 generations back, that it matters. There's your answer. Cal picked up the carving again. This isn't revenge, Ray. Revenge would be burning down Derek's office or slashing Linda's tires. This is just making sure the truth gets told. Ray looked at his phone, at the photos of emails that proved everything. Town meetings April 5th. Easements on the agenda. Public forum, everyone watching. They already think I'm crazy. Then show them you're not. Cal's knife worked steady, shaving away what didn't belong. But Ray, you can't do this alone. People see one angry old man making accusations, they'll dismiss it. You need allies. You need documentation that can't be denied. I've got the emails. You need more. You need someone who understands property law, who can explain what Linda and Derek did in terms people can follow. Cal paused. You talked to Mike lately? This morning. He's coming up next week. Good. He works in assessor's office, right? He'll know how to present this? Cal set down the eagle, looked at Ray straight. But you gotta decide now. You're in or you're out. Because once you start this, there's no walking it back. Ray thought about Linda's emails. Clean exit. The more unstable he seems, the easier this gets. Thought about Derek buying drinks for Ray's friends, turning them against him. Thought about 40 acres his son should inherit, land Sarah's grandfather had cleared by hand in 1947. I'm in, Ray said. Thursday afternoon, Mike's truck pulled into the driveway. Newer Ford, Montana plates. Ray was in the workshop when he heard the engine, came out wiping grease off his hands. Mike got out slow, like he wasn't sure of his welcome. 38 years old, Sarah's eyes and Ray's build. He'd put on weight since Ray saw him last, looked tired. Dad. Mike. They stood there in the March cold, melting snow dripping from the roof edge. Finally, Mike said, I'm sorry. For what? For being a shit son? For blaming you for moving on after Mom died. For 6 years of barely talking. Mike's voice cracked. You deserve better. Ray felt something break loose in his chest. Come inside. I'll make coffee. In the kitchen, Ray spread the evidence on the table. Printed emails, the forged easement, Derek's business history from 3 states, Cal's notes on the property scheme. Mike studied it all, his face getting harder with each page. Jesus, Dad, this is airtight. He looked up. But you need to present it right. Town meeting? April 5? 6 days. Okay. Mike pulled out a legal pad, started making notes. His handwriting was small and precise like Sarah's had been. I work in property assessment. I can explain the legal violations, what Linda and Derek did wrong, why it matters. You sure? This'll get messy. You're my father. This is my inheritance. Mike's jaw set. I'm sure. They worked through the afternoon, organizing evidence, building the presentation. Cal showed up around 5 with takeout from the diner. Nora's pot roast still warm. The 3 of them ate at the workshop table, planning. Key is making it simple, Mike said. Show the forged signature, show Linda's emails proving intent, show Derek's pattern in other states. Then let the council see they're about to approve a fraudulent easement. They might not care, Ray said. Derek's got money, promises of jobs, development. Then we make them care. Cal pushed his empty plate aside. We show them what happens to towns that let men like Derek operate. Property disputes, bankruptcies, people losing their land. Make it about protecting Grafton, not just protecting you. Outside, the sun was setting, turning the snow orange and pink. Spring thaw had started, the roads running with melt, bare ground showing in patches. In 6 days, mud season would be in full swing. In 6 days, Ray would stand in front of the town council and present evidence that his wife had tried to steal his land. Mike's hand landed on Ray's shoulder. We've got this, Dad. The truth's on our side. Ray looked at the documents spread across his workbench, 40 years of tools organized on the pegboard behind them, and thought about Sarah's hand gripping his in that hospital bed. Stand up when it matters. This mattered. April 5th came with rain. Not the hard, frozen stuff of winter, but spring rain that smelled like thawing earth and new grass. The kind that washed away what winter had buried. Ray sat in his truck outside Town Hall at 6:30, watching people arrive. Trucks and sedans filled the lot, mud splashing under tires. The whole town seemed like word had spread that something was happening tonight. Mike sat in the passenger seat, cardboard box of documents on his lap. You ready? No. Good. Means you're taking it serious. Mike opened his door. Let's go. Inside, the meeting room was packed. Folding chairs in rows, every seat taken, people standing along the walls. The air smelled like wet wool and coffee from the urn in the corner. Ray recognized most of the faces. Eddie from the hardware store, Nora from the diner, Pastor Whitmore in the second row. The quilting circle ladies clustered near the front. Derek Vance sat at the presentation table, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Ray's truck. He was laughing with a council member, confident. Didn't even look up when Ray entered. Linda sat at her clerk's desk to the side, typing on her laptop. She glanced at Ray, then Mike, and something flickered across her face. Fear, maybe. Or calculation. Cal was already there, sitting in the back row, whittling. He nodded once. The council president, Tom Brennan, called the meeting to order at 7 sharp. His voice echoed into the crowded room. We've got a full agenda tonight. First item is the Miller Creek development easement request. Derek Vance is presenting. As Derek stood, moved to the front with a laptop and projector. His presentation was slick. Renderings of the development, job projections, tax revenue estimates. He talked about progress and growth, about Grafton's future. People nodded along. The final piece we need, Derek said, clicking to a map, is road access across this 40-acre parcel. He pointed to Ray's property, highlighted in red. The owner has been reluctant to grant easement, but we're hopeful the council will recognize the public benefit and approve the access. That's my land, Ray said from his seat. His voice carried in the quiet room. Tom Brennan looked up. Ray, you'll have a chance to speak during public comment. I'd like to speak now. I've got evidence of fraud. Ray stood up. Forgery, conspiracy, criminal misconduct. Figured the council might want to hear it before they vote. The room went silent. Derek's smile didn't waver, but his hand tightened on the projector remote. Tom glanced at the other council members. I suppose we can hear from the property owner. Keep it brief, Ray. Ray walked to the front, Mike following with the document box. Cal stayed in his seat, but Ray could feel him there, solid as oak. My name's Ray Hollister. I'm 63 years old. Retired electrician, Vietnam veteran, lived in Grafton since 1970. Ray's hands were steady. That surprised him. The land Derek wants to access belonged to my first wife's family. Her grandfather cleared it in 1947. She left it to me when she died, and I plan to leave it to my son. He pulled out the first document. This is the easement application currently before you. It has my signature on it. He held it up so the room could see. Except that's not my signature. It's a forgery. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Derek stood up. That's a serious accusation. I've got my driver's license here. Ray held up both documents. Compare them. The H in Hollister is different. The final R slant's wrong. Someone practiced my signature, but they didn't get it perfect. Tom Brennan leaned forward. Who would forge your signature? My wife. Ray looked at Linda. Her face had gone pale. Linda Hollister, town clerk. She notarized this document 2 weeks before I supposedly signed it. Check the dates. Linda stood up fast, knocking papers off her desk. That's not... Ray, you're confused. Mike, Ray said. His son stepped forward. I'm Mike Hollister. I work as a property assessor in Gallatin County. I've reviewed these documents. And he spoke clear, professional. The notary seal predates the signature by 14 days. That's impossible if the signing was legitimate. Additionally, the signature exhibits practice marks consistent with forgery. Derek's smile was gone now. This is desperate slander from a man who's been harassing my business for months. Is it? Ray pulled out the next stack of papers. Because I've also got emails between Linda Hollister and Derek Vance. 8 months of planning this scheme. He read from the first one, his voice steady. Linda's words about opportunity and percentage splits, about ways to structure the theft. The room was absolutely silent except for Ray's voice and the sound of rain on the roof. There's more, Ray said. Emails about starting an affair to discredit me if I objected. About making me look unstable, paranoid. About accelerating the timeline when I found the forged application. Linda was crying now, but Ray kept reading. Derek had moved toward the door. Sheriff Mendez, Tom Brennan said quietly. The sheriff, standing near the back, stepped forward to block Derek's exit. I've also got Derek's business history. Mike took over, spreading documents across the table. 3 similar schemes in Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana. Same pattern: seduce women with property access, manipulate paperwork, force land transfers. 2 bankruptcies, 4 lawsuits, multiple complaints filed with state licensing boards. People were standing now trying to see the documents. Eddie pushed forward, looked at the emails over Tom's shoulder. His face went hard. Ray, Tom said slowly. These are serious criminal allegations. I know. Ray pulled out his phone. And I've got one more thing. Video evidence. He connected his phone to the projector Derek had been using. The screen filled with security camera footage. Black and white, timestamp in the corner. Ray's driveway, his workshop in frame. This is from 3 nights ago, Ray said. Late meeting at town hall ran past midnight. Watch. The footage showed Linda's Subaru pulling into Ray's driveway at 12:47 a.m., but she didn't go to the house. She went to Ray's workshop, tried the door, locked. Then she pulled something from her purse, worked at the lock. That's breaking and entering, Sheriff Mendez said quietly. The footage continued. Linda inside the workshop, opening drawers, searching through Ray's filing cabinet where he kept the property deed and Sarah's will. She photographed documents with her phone, then left. She was looking for leverage, Ray said. Something to use against me if the easement scheme fell through. But the final clip was what destroyed them. Different date, 2 weeks earlier. Derek's truck pulling up to town hall at 11 p.m. Linda letting him in. The 2 of them visible through the window, kissing, then spreading paperwork across Linda's desk. Timestamp matched one of the emails. The night they discussed accelerating the timeline. The room erupted. People shouting questions, council members conferring, Linda sobbing at her desk. Derek tried again for the door, but Sheriff Mendez had him by the arm. "This meeting is adjourned," Tom Brennan said, standing up. His voice was hard. "Sheriff, I think you need to take statements. Linda, Derek, don't leave town." Pastor Whitmore appeared at Ray's side. "Ray, I owe you an apology. I should have believed you." Eddie pushed through the crowd. "Brother, I'm sorry. We all are." But Ray wasn't listening. He was looking at Mike, who had tears in his eyes. "Mom would be proud," Mike said quietly. "You stood up." Cal appeared, pocketed his whittling knife. "Motion to deny the easement?" Tom Brennan was already writing. "Motion made and seconded. All in favor?" The vote was unanimous. Outside, the rain had stopped. The parking lot smelled like wet asphalt and pine. Ray stood by his truck, watching people leave. They stopped to shake his hand, apologize, promise they'd never doubted him. Some of it was even true. Linda came out escorted by Sheriff Mendez, hands cuffed in front. She looked at Ray as they passed. Her makeup had run, mascara and tracks down her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Ray didn't answer. Just watched them load her into the patrol car, red and blue lights cutting through April darkness. Derek was already gone, taken to the county lockup. Mike touched Ray's shoulder. "Let's go home." The county prosecutor filed charges within a week. Linda resigned as town clerk before they could fire her. Fraud, forgery, conspiracy, abuse of public office. Derek faced federal charges, wire fraud across state lines. His development company filed for bankruptcy by the end of April. Ray learned this in pieces. Phone calls from Sheriff Mendez, letters from lawyers, updates from Cal over coffee. At Nora's Diner, where the breakfast crowd had gone from avoiding Ray to buying him meals he didn't ask for. "Heard Derek's looking at 3 to 5, Eddie said one morning, setting a plate of biscuits and gravy at Ray's table. "If he takes the plea." What about Linda?" Nora asked, refilling coffee. "Trial's set for July." Cal carved at his pine eagle, wings nearly finished now. "Her lawyer's trying for probation restitution," claims she was manipulated. Ray didn't comment. He testified to the grand jury, showed them everything, emails, video, forged documents. After that, it wasn't his problem anymore. The system would handle it, or it wouldn't. What mattered was the land. The easement was denied permanently. Derek's investors had pulled out within days of the town meeting. The whole Miller Creek development collapsed like a house built on sand. Mike had stayed. That was the real change. Ray came home from Eddie's one afternoon in late April to find Mike's truck in the driveway and voices in the workshop. Mike and Cal both leaning over the workbench where property maps were spread out. "Thought you'd be back at work by now," Ray said. Mike looked up. "Gave notice this morning. Told them I was staying in Grafton." "There's no assessor job here. Don't need one. Been thinking about what you said, land being family legacy." Mike tapped the map. "Back section of the 40, where it borders the creek. That's flat ground, good drainage. Could build a cabin there, small place, just for weekends at first." "You're serious?" "I'm serious." Mike's voice was steady. "Spent too many years being angry at you for moving on after Mom. Wasn't fair. You deserve to be happy, even if it didn't work out." He paused. "And I don't want to lose this land. Want my kids to grow up here if I ever have any. Want them to know where their grandmother's family came from." Cal folded his knife, pocketed the eagle. "I'll leave you two to talk." He squeezed Ray's shoulder on the way out. "Good men, both of you." After he left, Ray and Mike stood in the workshop while spring wind came through the open door. It smelled like fresh earth and pine sap, like things growing. "Your mother wanted you to have this land," Ray said finally. "It was always going to be yours." "I know." Mike's eyes were damp. "Took me too long to appreciate that." They spent the next hour planning where the cabin would sit, how to run power from the existing line, whether to drill a well or tie into Ray's system. Easy conversation about practical things, the kind they used to have before Sarah died, and grief made everything complicated. Pastor Whitmore stopped by Sunday after church, standing on the porch with his hat in his hands. "Wanted to apologize in person," he said. "I should have believed you when you first came to me. You believed who you thought you knew better." Ray leaned against the porch post. Linda was convincing. Still, I'm a pastor. I'm supposed to see through deception." Whitmore looked out at the fields, green now with spring growth. "I let you down when you needed support. It worked out. By the grace of God and your own persistence." Whitmore turned to face him. "The congregation's been asking about you, wondering if you'd come back to church." Ray thought about Sunday mornings in that third pew, Linda beside him, smiling at the quilting circle ladies, the performance of it. Maybe. Eventually. No pressure. Just want you to know you're welcome. Always were. After Whitmore left, Ray sat on the porch with coffee, watching robins build a nest in the eaves. The workshop thermometer read 58 degrees, warm enough for the door to stay open all day. He could hear Mike inside, measuring lumber, the sound of a saw cutting clean through pine. Nora's car pulled up around noon. She got out carrying a casserole dish wrapped in tinfoil. "Pot roast," she said, climbing the porch steps. "Figure you and Mike need feeding." You don't have to do that." "I know I don't." She set it on the porch rail, looked at him straight. "Ray, I'm sorry. I doubted you when I should have trusted what I'd known about you for 30 years. Derek was smooth, Linda was convincing, but that's no excuse." "Nora, let me finish." Her voice was firm. "You're a good man, always have been. And this town damn near ran you off because we were too lazy to look at evidence. That won't happen again. Not on my watch." She left before Ray could respond. They kept coming. Tom Brennan, with news that the council had voted to install a plaque recognizing landowners who'd preserved agricultural property for 3 generations or more. Ray's name would be first. The VFW apologizing for canceled poker games, inviting him back to the regular Friday night rotation. Eddie offering a discount on materials for Mike's cabin, refusing to take no for an answer. Ray accepted it all, quietly, graciously, the way Sarah had taught him to accept help after her diagnosis. People meant well, even when they got things wrong. By early May, mud season was ending. The roads dried out, the fields turned deeper green, and the Absarokas lost their snow except for the highest peaks. Ray and Mike worked on the cabin site most afternoons, clearing brush, marking where the foundation would go. One evening, Mike pulled something from his truck. A metal transit, old brass with mahogany tripod legs. Ray recognized it immediately. Sarah's grandfather's surveying equipment, passed down through the family. "Found it in Mom's things after she died," Mike said. "Been in storage. Thought maybe we could use it to survey the cabin site. Do it the old way." Ray took the transit, felt the weight of it, the smooth brass worn from decades of hands. His throat tightened. "Your great-grandfather used this to map the original 40. "I know." Mike set up the tripod. "Thought it was time to keep it in use. Maybe when I have kids, teach them how to sight through it. Pass it down." They worked until sunset, using the transit to mark corners and sight lines, precision measurements that would outlast them both. The brass caught the evening light, glowing warm. When they finished, Ray looked at his son across newly measured ground and thought about Sarah in that hospital bed. Gripping his hand, telling him to stand up when it mattered, he'd stood. And somehow, in fighting for the land, he'd gotten his son back too. Some things you fix, some things you survive. And some things, like 40 acres of Montana dirt and the men who stand on it, don't break easy. 3 weeks after the town meeting, Ray sat in the workshop at dawn with his coffee. The door stood open to May morning, cool air carrying the smell of pine and wet earth. Robins sang in the cottonwoods, building season in full swing. He'd started a new project, rewiring an old radio, AM/FM console from the 70s that someone had left at the transfer station. The kind of work that required patience, tracing circuits, until you found where the current stopped flowing true. His hands moved steady across the workbench, testing connections with the multimeter, replacing corroded wire. The radio crackled to life around 7. Static, then music, Johnny Cash singing about Sunday morning coming down. Ray turned it up a little, let it play. Through the open door, he could see Mike's truck parked by the cabin site. His son had spent the night, sleeping on an air mattress in what would eventually be the living room, waking early to frame windows before the day got hot. The sound of his hammer carried across the 40 acres, steady and sure. Linda had taken a plea deal, 18 months, suspended to probation and restitution. She'd moved to Billings, got a job at a title company. Ray heard this from Sheriff Mendez, who seemed to think Ray might want to know. He didn't, particularly. That part of his life was done. Derek Vance got 3 years federal, would be out in 18 months if he behaved. Ray didn't think much about that either. The man was someone else's problem now. What he thought about was the land. The way spring had come slow this year, frost lingering into April before finally breaking. The way the back 40 had greened up once the snow melted, revealing the survey stakes Mike had placed for the cabin. The way his son's laughter carried on the wind when something went right with the framing. Cal stopped by most mornings, brought fresh coffee, and sat whittling while Ray worked. They didn't talk much, didn't need to. Just 2 old men comfortable in the quiet, watching the sun clear the tree line. The radio played on. Ray stripped another wire, tested the connection, nodded when the meter showed good current. Some things you could fix with patience and the right tools. Some things stayed broken. The trick was knowing which was which. Sarah's photo still sat on the workbench, 40 years old, her smile caught in Kodachrome. Ray looked at it sometimes and thought about what she'd said. Stand up when it matters. He'd stood. The land was safe. Mike was home. The transit sat in its case by the door, ready to pass down another generation. Outside, spring rain started up again, soft patter on the metal roof. The kind of rain that soaked in deep-fed roots made things grow. Ray could smell it through the open door, clean and new and full of promise. The radio cut to news. County Planning Commission meeting, new development proposal on the other side of town. Ray listened for a moment, then turned it off. Not his fight. He'd fought his battle, kept his ground, protected what mattered. Now he was just an old electrician in a workshop on a May morning, drinking coffee while his son built a cabin on family land. Simple work, simple life. The kind of thing that lasted. Mike appeared in the doorway, sawdust in his hair, holding 2 boards. "Dad, can you check if these are square?" Ray set down his coffee, reached for his level. "Let's have a look." They bent over the workbench together, father and son, measuring twice, like Sarah's grandfather had taught them all, getting it right, building something that would stand. The rain picked up, drumming steady on the roof. Good for the seedlings, good for the land, good for the work that still needed doing. Some men measure success in dollars, others in property or position. Ray measured his in mornings like this, coffee cooling, tools organized on pegboard walls, his son's voice asking questions about square corners and level foundations, and 40 acres of Montana dirt that didn't lie. The land remembers who loved it and who tried to sell it. Sarah had been right about that, right about standing up when it mattered, right about everything that counted. They'd thought silence was surrender. Turned out it was just preparation.